The Warriors might be cooked, bro. Let's talk about it. Just when you thought this team couldn't get any more disappointing, they lose to the 8-31 Toronto Raptors. The 8-31 Toronto Raptors, bro. They officially lost all their confidence. They know they aren't talented enough. They know that 12-3 start was a mirage. And I will say, I still feel like if Melton didn't get injured, this team will be nowhere near as bad as they are right now. That was a huge loss for the Warriors. This team deploys too many one-way players, whether it be Buddy, who's only out there for offense, which by the way, his offense hasn't been great either. GP2, who's only out there for defense. Looney, who's only out there for defense. Kyle Anderson, only out there for defense. Moses Moody, only offense. Dennis Schroeder, who was supposed to be a two-way player, but at this point is basically only effective as a defensive player. It's too many one-way players getting minutes. And DeAnthony Melton was one of the Warriors' only legit two-way players. That's what they're missing. Schroeder's a good player, and I think he's better than what he's shown with the Warriors. He's just not as good of an overall player as Melton was. Schroeder's been a more difficult fit than expected. Dennis has only made 34% of his shots and 26% of his threes in his 14 games with Golden State, so he's not hitting shots. The other problem is he plays at an extremely slow pace. His play style is very methodical. He wants to walk the ball up and run the sets, which isn't a problem in a vacuum because it's something that the Warriors need. But he seems extremely uncomfortable playing an up-tempo offense, which is crazy when you think about it because 99% of the time he's probably one of the fastest players on the court. There was a play in the Raptors game, for example. The Warriors had a 3-on-1 fast break. It was Steph, Schroeder, and a third player that I can't remember who. Steph had the ball pushing it off a miss. It was one guy ahead of him. Schroeder was filling the lane on the right wing. Now, mind you, Dennis is the fastest guy on the court, and there's only one guy to beat in a 3-on-1 fast break. But instead of using his speed and utilizing the 3-on-1 advantage, he drifts to the wing for a corner three. And when you watch him, he's running at half speed. Now what happened next is on Steph. He made the wrong decision. He still should have passed to Schroeder instead of making a more dangerous pass to the guy on his left. But my thing is just like, why not just sprint to the basket? Playing with pace is just not his game, I guess. I don't get it, bro. But anyways, adding a stretch five is probably the only way to really optimize Schroeder on this team. He's a pick and roll player that hasn't been effective running pick and roll with the Warriors. So TJD, Kyle Anderson, Looney, and Draymond aren't the best pick and roll partners. Surprise, surprise. The Warriors are still in on Vucevic, more than likely waiting for the Bulls to lower their asking price from a first-round pick to a package of seconds. The Lakers are reportedly considered to be the other serious bidder for Vucevic. The Warriors don't have to unload the picks barrel or dangle Kuminga to find an extra rotation player who should be able to help them before the deadline. They've talked plenty internally about the need for a center who makes threes consistently, providing Curry with more spacing and better unlocking lineups for Green and Kuminga. It's why the Chicago Bulls' Nikola Vucevic, who's making 43% of his nearly 5 threes per game, is a player of interest, depending on his ultimate price and availability as the deadline nears. Others also will draw their attention and could possibly motivate them to move off a first-round pick. So it seems like the Warriors have been trying to get Vucevic for months, but the Bulls are adamant on extracting a first-round pick for their big man. And I don't think there's any team in the league that's desperate enough to give up a first-round pick for Vucevic. Alright, now let's talk about some concerning quotes from Steve Kerr and Steph Curry. Let's start with Steve Kerr's post-game presser after the Raptors loss.
Didn't execute very well, weren't disciplined enough, and that's my fault. I'm the coach of the team. I have to find a way to help this team. I'm not doing a good job of that. Down the stretch, we're not executing, but that's happening throughout the game at both ends. Missed rotations, missed coverages on defense, and then poor possessions offensively. It's on me. This is as frustrating a night as we've had all season. For me, this game was right there for us to win, and we just let him get right back in it. And again, it's lack of discipline in our coverages defensively, in our offensive execution, and I'm the coach, so it's my fault.
This is a pretty typical response from Kerr after an embarrassing loss. And to be honest with you, I'm tired of it, bro. Let's hear what else Kerr had to say recently. This is via Anthony Slater in his recent article. Steve Kerr spoke to The Athletic about the uncomfortable truth staring his franchise and his fading era in the face. Kerr, Curry, and Draymond are the three that would benefit most from the front office and ownership merging as much of the future as necessary to maximize the present. But all three have gone on the record caution against that approach. That's the hard part in addressing all this stuff, Steve Kerr said. We're not giving in, but you have to be realistic organizationally about where you are. You have to mind what's coming ahead in the future. I probably wouldn't be around, but I would tell you, if this organization gave away the next 6 or 7 drafts for a wild swing, that would be the most irresponsible thing they could do. This is a tricky spot, Kerr said. Mike Dunleavy is incredibly sharp. We have a great organization. I have no doubt Mike will navigate it, and I'll help any way I can. We've got to try to give Steph every chance he has to perform. That's really important these last few years, whatever that means, but you don't give away the future. If you look at the league, there are 4 or 5 teams that are really above everyone else. We're in the pack below that. So I do think internally, we can get better whether we make a move or not. I've watched it. I watched us start the season as a really elite two-way team. We're going to keep plugging away. I know it's in us. Mike is going to do his job, and we're going to keep plugging away. To me, that sounds like a coach who's ready to call it a hell of a run. Kerr no longer has that hunger or sense of urgency to win a championship. He's content with what he's accomplished, and he's just trying to ride out these last few years with Steph, being just competitive enough to have a little bit of pride on the court. He wants to win, but he's really not tripping about winning a championship. He's more concerned with upholding the integrity of the team. Basically, he's saying, look, let's go out there and compete. Let's have some pride. Let's have some dignity. Let's not get rolled over. And let's just enjoy these last few seasons. That's what it is, bro. He's riding this out as long as Curry's on the team. And the moment Curry retires, Steve's gone, bro. And look, I can respect that. You want to go out with your guy. But in the meantime, just the lack of hunger, the lack of will to win, bro, I'm not with that. The moment your head coach becomes content and he's not hungry anymore, he gotta go, dude. This franchise definitely needs a shakeup. They definitely need a culture shock. And unfortunately, with all the history Steve Kerr has, he's not going to change his ways. He's not all of a sudden going to decide to change up his system. He's not going to all of a sudden be inspired and hungry to win a championship. I was having a conversation with one of my subs in the comments, and I forgot your name, please forgive me. But he said something that was hilarious. He basically said, look, Steve Kerr's going to crash out running his motion offense into the ground. Steve would rather lose running his offense than to change it for the betterment of the team. That could lead to more wins. It's obvious the Warriors offense needs a shakeup. And the Warriors brought in Terry Stotts, who's a respected coach who's supposed to come in with some fresh ideas for the offense. And the Warriors were running some of the stuff in preseason in the first few weeks of the regular season. But Steve Kerr said, this is working a little too well. I'm not getting credit. Kerr said, nope, it's my way or the highway, brother. And that's it. And at this point, it just is what it is, bro. We're not going to see no iterations to the offense until Kerr's gone. Regardless of personnel, regardless of who the Warriors trade for. The Warriors could trade for Giannis, and Steve Kerr still wouldn't adjust his offense to accommodate a star player. Moving on to Steph Curry. Here's what he had to say after the Toronto loss.
Desperate trades or desperate moves that deplete the future, like there is a responsibility on keeping the franchise with good space and good spot when it comes to where we leave this thing when we're done. Doesn't mean that you're not trying to get better. Doesn't mean that you're not active in any type of search to if you have an opportunity where a trade makes sense or even in the summer free agency makes sense, like you want to continue to get better. Nobody wants to be stale or be in a situation where you're passing up opportunities, but it doesn't mean that you're desperate, just flinging assets all around the place just because you want to do something. So Mike understands, like, we want to win. We want to be in that position where, we've always said that you want to be relevant in the championship type of chase while, we understand we're getting older and deeper into our careers and allowing some of the young guys to kind of blossom. It doesn't mean you're getting desperate. So it's better to kind of be patient and understand what that looks like. And I know, Mike is always on the phone trying to figure it out. That's what a good GM does. Doesn't mean there's a deal on the table. Doesn't mean that you're desperate. Doesn't mean that you're just flinging, like I said, assets all the way around and being reckless with it.
Are you comfortable with the activity level 3 weeks out?
If there was a situation that made sense for our team, I'm pretty sure we know about it. That's how we've always operated. That's the expectation now until February 6th.
Steph Curry is one of the best media-trained superstars we've seen in decades. He's almost always going to say what's politically correct. And at this point, he's choosing not to talk out against the front office. Now, do I believe what Steph Curry said in this quote is exactly how he feels? Absolutely not. I just don't think he's publicly ready to ruffle feathers right now. Anyways, that's all I got for y'all. If I entertained you or you learned something new, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button. Also, follow me on Instagram at SeanHolly_. I'll holler at you on the next one. Peace.